How's it going, Capital City Baptist Church? This is Scott with your Thursday Daily Devo. You know, for the last 2,000 years, Christians have been cut down by the sword, deep fried in oil, fed to lions, tigers, and bears, used as torches to provide warmth and light for dinner parties. We have been crushed by steamrollers. We have been hung. We have been beheaded. We have been put up against the wall and shot. We have been slandered, lied about. We've had our reputations assassinated. Persecution has been with the church since its inception, and that shouldn't really surprise us. Jesus warned us that bad times were coming, and in fact, if you think about it, our faith is based on worshiping Jesus, who himself is a persecuted and executed God. So how then should we conduct ourselves when we face opposition? How did the early church? Paul was no stranger to persecution, and in today's passage, he's going to give some encouragement to a church facing such opposition. And I think we can glean some wisdom from him. So if you would, as always, pause the video, read Philippians chapter 1, verses 27 through 30. Yes, finally, after weeks and weeks of being in Philippians, we're finally killing off the first chapter. No pun intended. And then come back and we'll chat about it. And if you don't have a Bible handy, we will link the passage in the description box. All you have to do is follow the link and it'll just pop you right to the passage that we're reading today. So go ahead and pause and we'll see you in a sec. I love how Paul opens this paragraph to the church in Philippi, which is experiencing some insane persecution. And Paul could have told them to meet the opposition with opposition. Fight fire with fire. Become combative. Protest. Sue the officials who are mistreating you. Take up arms and fight. But that's not what Paul tells them. Instead, he tells his spiritual children to conduct themselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. Well, what in the heck could that mean? Well, I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to come back next week when Paul further fleshes out that idea of conducting ourselves worthy of the gospel. But I'll give you a hint today. It might have something to do with humility and sacrifice. Perhaps. You'll have to tune in next week to find out. But in the meantime, in between time, I want to hit on three tangible things that we can do in the midst of persecution that Paul mentions in these 4 verses. The first thing is we need to not be afraid of persecution or those who oppose us. Now, we are blessed to live in a country where we really don't see persecution. Now, that is not an absolute statement. I'm sure that there are anomalies and outliers of Christians in America maybe being mildly discriminated against, or some Christians think that if they don't receive preferential treatment over other faiths or people groups, that's persecution. But you know, for the most part, our right to practice our faith goes unhindered. Paul also tells them to band together, to be united, to strive together in the midst of suffering for the gospel. Now, in 2020, this has been a hard year, and we might not see persecution necessarily, although there are some Christians who would say otherwise. But 2020 is a hard year, and there is opposition, whether it's direct or indirect, with just the virus and the inconveniences of following the health guidelines. But this is a time for us as Christians to band together, to strive for the gospel, to conduct ourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel by meeting needs of those who are vulnerable, of those who are in isolation, of those who maybe lost their job and need some help getting to the next billing cycle, or to put food on their table. This is a time for us to band together, and we have done that as a church, and I'm really proud of Capital City. We in just a couple of months, in a year of economic hardship, we have all banded together. We have delivered 600 100 pounds of food to the Elk Grove Food Bank, which is amazing. We still did Operation Christmas Child and delivered all those boxes that you saw on Dedication Sunday to needy children in third world countries. We have done that good work of the gospel, and so for that I commend our church. Give yourselves a pat on the back. I will for you. But yeah, Paul tells us to strive together, to band together, be united in the Spirit, in one Spirit. And finally, Paul concludes this section by saying that we aren't suffering just for suffering's sake. We are suffering for Christ. It is, if it is truly our prayer that we walk in Jesus' footsteps, it should be no surprise that we might follow him into some suffering. After all, no servant is greater than their master, right? So the next time you get a funny look or are inconvenienced for your faith, or if worse comes to worse and we do become a persecuted people group in America, we can rejoice that we are imitating Christ and sharing in his suffering. Well, I hope that you enjoyed today's video, Capital City Baptist Church. Have an amazing rest of your week, and God bless.